Hey everyone, come on in, come in, drop in, say hello. And my name is Mike Gelman. We're broadcasting live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And I'm here to answer whatever questions people may have about the workplace, your job search, if you're a leader. So if you're watching the replay, then Fridays at noon is when you want to tune in, or noon-ish, as I like to call it. And you can tune in and get your questions answered, challenges that you're facing. So I have career coaching clients and I have executive coaching clients every week. You know, we have these conversations around all kinds of challenges that people are having for the careers. People that, especially with COVID, I've had a lot of clients, for example, who are looking to change careers. And hey, Brett, good to see you. So I have a lot of people looking to change careers, do something completely different. I have other people who are, one of the biggest things, to be honest, that's coming up is many employees are having difficulty around like emotional intelligence types of things. And leaders with their teams and leaders with other leaders in particular. And then also just like engineers or IT folks, for example, resolving conflicts with others at work. I mean, that's been coming up a lot the last few weeks. So I just finished a coaching conversation this morning with someone who's a VP and has some issues with the sales teams, right? And so that's not uncommon, but how do you go about approaching the conversations to make things better? So he's in good company because there's many others that are struggling with that right now and looking for ways on how do I have that kind of conversation, what we would call a crucial conversation, where there's really strong emotions involved for yourself and most likely for the other party or parties, and where you maybe it's a high stakes type of conversation, right? There's a lot that could be at risk by having it. At least you feel there is, and you know that you're not necessarily of the same mind, right? You have different opinions, different perspectives. So it's a interesting combination there. So that's something I'm seeing a lot there. So if you have any questions around that, you can put them in the chat, or just put them in the chat. Be happy to answer them. And then what else am I seeing? So I've given a couple presentations this week to a couple of talent development organizations. One's in LA and the LA chapter, and one was the San Diego chapter. I had the San Diego one this morning, and I had the LA one last night. And we were having an interesting conversation this morning around the future trends. I should probably get my little cheat sheet. That'll be fun to talk about today, since it's not too busy. And then I'll just wrap up early if we don't have too many people on. Unless, Britt, you have a question or comment or something like that. But I'm going to take you guys with me here. And I'm going to grab some research that I've done on what are some future trends. I think that'll be fun to share. We had an interesting conversation. Now, this was mostly human resources trends, but I'll pick out the ones that are kind of broader. And in fact, they'd be important for you to know in general if you're in the market. So as a leader or as a job seeker, some things to know. And you very well may be aware and feeling it yourself in your bones, with many of you working from home now. Maybe you've got young kids to school while you're trying to work, and stressing out about, should I go out and about, into the store or not, and do I have my mask, and right? So all these things that create stress. Well, one of the biggest trends is around wellness, and it's something that was kind of percolating over the years, and entering into the corporate arena around like mindfulness and things like that, right? That's been happening. But with COVID, it's now totally accelerated that trend. And so companies now are seeing it more as a necessity, as a literally a smart business strategy to build wellness initiatives in. And in fact, one of the future positions within the next 5 years is looking at the director of well-being, right? And you do have wellness managers and whatnot, but that's something that you're likely to see in the future. And there's some other interesting jobs coming up in the future. I'm trying to think related to wellness. Well, a work from home facilitator, right? So that's one of the top anticipated jobs for the future, right? Because now it's like, yeah, how do you help people? There's different aspects of helping people work from home, right? There's the IT aspect, right? Just getting your technology to work, your laptop, your tablet, your phone, and getting on the network and VPN, right? There's all of that. But there's also the ergonomic aspect of it, right? Not everyone has a nice workspace at home. So there's the ergonomic aspect. How do you create that? And then there's the psychological, emotional aspect. So how do you just handle it? How do you set boundaries? So some people who have been working from home have figured this out. They've been working remotely. But for many people, it's new. And how do you hold yourself accountable? As a leader, how can you hold your people accountable when they're working remote? So these are things that have been around a while, but they've just been really accelerated during COVID. So that's certainly a trend. The human and bot interaction. So how many of you have been on a website or you've applied for a job? Because companies are starting to use this now on the recruiting end. They're using these chat bots, right? And they're using it to help to create a more efficient application process. So, the blending between, are you talking to a real person on the other end of that chat, or is it a bot, right? That's becoming more and more blurred, those lines. And California actually has a law that came into play January of 2019 about that, the California bot law, that basically says, companies need to declare whether, you're talking to a person, a live human, or whether you're interacting with a bot, because the technology and the artificial intelligence that goes into these bots is become pretty amazing, and it continually gets better. You think about the algorithms there. So there's some things going on there. There's also a greater emphasis on the what's called power skills. Power skills are those things that sometimes previously might have been referred to as soft skills, but they're really seen as key competencies needed, not only in leaders, but in just employees in general for the future. The McKinsey and Company, you might be familiar with McKinsey. They do a ton of research on a lot of different topics, and they're a global consulting firm, but they have a think tank as well. So they have their 5 C's. That's communication, collaboration, is it creativity, I want to say, cultural IQ, right? Cultural competence, cultural IQ, and critical thinking. Critical thinking. So those are their C's. I don't know, creativity wasn't one of them, but that is an auxiliary, a supplemental one that's needed. And then some other ones around emotional intelligence, initiative, optimism, and adaptability or agility. That's a huge one, particularly with leadership, but also with employees. So that's been even more accelerated now with COVID, is being able to be agile, right? So many organizations needed to go from in-person to virtual within like a week, like very fast. Restaurants needed to adapt a lot of things, right? So on the retail front, a lot of things needed to be adapted. And then just in the office type of environments, in my field, in training or coaching or whatnot, you know, shifting to virtual, just everywhere, right? Figuring out things that we didn't think would be effective or could be done virtually, can now be done that way. Some other trends. So auditing the workplace environment, right? So, you know, with the California wildfires, we have, you know, air quality issues. And so, you know, one of the things in my last job was one of my clients was the facilities department. I'd have conversations with one of the managers all the time about how to improve that, because how does the environment that you're in affect productivity? So if you're working remotely from home, or whether you're working back in the office, what improves your productivity? But it's not just the traditional stuff like the ergonomics and a standing desk or things of that nature, but it's also things like the air quality and, you know, some of those things that, and how much natural light do you get, right? And getting your vitamin D, because many people are getting depressed now. COVID, we're more kind of shuttered in more. So something to keep in mind there is that there's a lot of emphasis that's going to be placed on that. I'll just cover one other trend. Where the workplace, maybe I'll do a separate broadcast specifically on this. The workplace experience. So nowadays, companies are getting the drift that they've had a big focus on the customer experience and mapping out the customer journey from the time they see an ad or that someone reaches out to them, to the time where they decide to buy or not, to the time when if they did buy, that they have the product, and to the time that they're done using the product or service. So the customer experience, right? Well, now companies are focusing on the employee experience. So what's the experience like for a job applicant, right? Whereas before they didn't care. It's everything that we want for us, right? What works for us? But now they're looking at it, well, what works for the candidates? Because they're trying to attract the best talent, right? So there's a lot of emphasis on, just from the recruiting process, attracting people, attracting talent, to the onboarding. So once they've been hired, so what's their experience like when they first start with the organization? Right? Do they attend that one-day orientation and then sink or swim? They're left to their own devices? Or is there ongoing support? What's the experience like? And then once they've been with the company for a while, what's the experience like? So you have companies that have been doing employee engagement surveys and things of that nature. But now they're even looking at more granular things about, like, interactions. How are the interactions with, for example, with human resources or different departments? Like, what would make it a better experience, right? So you have more focus on that within organizations now, and that's a growing trend that's, you know, again, going to be accelerated with this COVID situation, because the marketplace is going to be really competitive. There's a lot of great talent out there, and once the economy recovers, right now it's an employer's market, so there's a lot less jobs than there is talent available. But eventually, as the economy recovers, there's going to be high demand and a lot of kind of a war for talent again, right? There's going to be plenty of people with choices, with good skills. So those are some of the trends. I'm just going to end it there. I could go on. Maybe I'll make it another broadcast, but if this was helpful to you, feel free to comment. And then on Tuesday at 5 p.m. will be the next installment, particularly for leaders, on engaging your employees. So join in for that. That'll be 5 o'clock on Tuesday. And if you haven't connected with me on LinkedIn, feel free to do that. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Go to my Facebook business page, facebook.com/High Five Career. 5 is spelled out, F-I-V-E. And hope you all have a great weekend, right? Have a good weekend, everyone. Take care.